Margaret Purvis runs a food bank. And I think she runs it, let me check here. Is it in somewhere in New York City? Let me see. Yeah, she is the president and CEO of Food Bank for New York City. That's a pretty big, pretty responsible position for feeding hungry people. In New York City, one of the wealthiest cities in America, there are tens of thousands of people who are desperately hungry. She has a piece in New York Times. She writes, on the eve of the Trump administration's announcement of a new rule that could eliminate benefits for nearly 700,000 people, food stamps, SNAP, food stamps. Now, I've been talking about this, so this doesn't come as a shock. She says, on the eve of that, I was at an event for national faith-based hunger charity, surrounded by people who work to help Americans in need. Exhausted and disappointed by this latest assault on the low-income people we serve by the Trump administration, the Christians, those fucking Christians, right? We shared our frustration with the administration's use of the term able-bodied to describe who will be affected, to hide what this rule really is that Trump has come up with and the Christians around him. And that is cruelty directed at Americans living in poverty. Now, you'll notice right away that this turns the message of Jesus, the rabbi from Nazareth, who was adopted by the Christians as their Messiah, turns it completely fucking upside down, what he said. But this is what the Christians do now. They take every word that came out of the rabbi's mouth and they piss all over it and change it around and pervert it and pollute it and crap it up. And then they say this is Christianity. And this is why I go fucking nuts over Christians on this program. These are not followers of Jesus. These are not followers of the carpenter / rabbi 2,000 years ago who tried to say to people, why don't you fucking lighten up? Why don't you respect each other? Why don't you follow the golden rule that's been around since 1,000 million years before I came on the scene? But nobody paid any attention. Certainly not the Christians today. These fuckers, what, Mike Pence? The rule that the Trump administration has come up with will take effect in April. And it makes it more difficult for states, even those that have economically distressed areas where jobs are scarce, where you can't get a job. You know, they talk about the Trump prosperity. First of all, it's not his, a fucking thief, liar. It's Obama's. And it's a natural cycle of capitalism. It's building up. And eventually it's going to peak. And then it's going to fucking crash. This happens all the time. The cyclical nature of capitalism, it's not a smooth running machine. It's a fucking explosion. And then it's a pit of depression. And then it's a buildup and explosion. And then it's a pit of depression. You don't have to be a fucking economist to have observed over the course of your life that this is how it works. So right now we're in the Trump economy, is the way he puts it, the lying prick. But eventually, FUD. That's what happens. It's just what happens. It is the nature of capitalism. So there are areas of the United States right now that by any yardstick are suffering poverty and hunger. And this is what Margaret Purvis is writing about. She says even those areas that have economically distressed areas where jobs are scarce, the rule will waive a requirement that able-bodied adults without dependents work at least 20 hours a week to keep their Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, the SNAP program, food stamps. It will strip 6.2 billion meals from Americans over the next decade. I wonder where that food will go. It took Food Bank for New York City nearly 35 years to deliver 1 billion meals to our neighbors in need. There is no amount of generosity by corporate or traditional philanthropy to any charity that will make up for this loss caused by Trump policy. There's no way to do it. It took them 35 years to deliver 1 billion meals. This means 6.2 billion meals are going to disappear from the diets of Americans that desperately need this food, for fuck's sake. Food, for fuck's sake. The policies of the Trump administration is taking away, literally, oxygen out of the atmosphere and replacing it with carbon dioxide. Not just the atmosphere, in your bloodstream, too. And it's taking away food. What the fuck is going on? Water already, what did I read the other day, we are at a point right now where there are 2 billion people on this planet. I think I said 2 billion. It might have said a third of the global population. 2 billion people on this planet do not have potable water. They don't have water they can drink or cook in without worrying about being infected with all kinds of fucking creatures that are crawling around in that water. I sound like a real Cassandra in here every night, don't I, Kathy? Huh? The Trump administration says this new rule will encourage people receiving food stamps. I'm going to say food stamps. It's not food stamps anymore, but let's call it food stamps. It'll encourage people who get food stamps to find a fucking job. Yeah. If there are no jobs available, taking away their food stamps will make jobs magically appear. You didn't know that? Well, ask the Christians in the Trump administration. Ask this son of a bitch Mike Pence, the uber Christian. Margaret Purvis writes, we know of neither history nor data connecting the creation of hunger with viable work opportunities for the vulnerable. Yeah, it's kind of impossible. Make people hungry and jobs will appear. Take away people's food, especially from children, and jobs will appear. This is the fucking Christian attitude. This is what the Christians are saying. Christians like this bitch who runs the education department. Christians like this filthy bastard Mike Pence and the rest of Rick Perry. Oh, goddamn. His pious shit. Oh. I think these people realize that their whole religion is a scam, bullshit lie. But they also realize that millions of people in the United States still cling to this horse shit. And so these uber Christians work the crowd. They talk about God and Jesus and all this other horse fuck, while they are robbing and stealing and committing people to poverty, hunger, sickness. Woo! Not good. Not good. The idea of cutting food stamps to encourage employment is confusing, Ms. Purvis writes. It's confusing to us and probably even more so to the countless Americans who are both working and still needing the help that food stamps provides to afford food. Most of, and I say this unadvisedly, I've read this, I've read statistics, most people who are on food stamps work. But they work the gig economy. Or they're making $7 or $8 or $5 an hour. If enacted, it's not in effect yet. It goes into effect in April. If enacted, this rule will target households with an average income of $557 a month, which in New York City means that about 70,000 people, 70,000 households will be affected. Now, she goes on to say, while neither hunger nor the use of food stamps discriminates, this rule will also disproportionately hurt people of color, and the local grocery stores that are able to stay open with help from customers using food stamps. See, the food stamps, the use of food stamps, first and foremost, it prevents people from dying of hunger. Secondly, it prevents people from getting sick from hunger. Third, it helps the local grocery outlets, as shitty as most of them are. Fourth, it helps the farming economy. Because the United States produces such massive surpluses of food right now. Not going to last forever, but we are now and have for a number of decades. And what do we do with the excess food? Well, a lot of it, the Department of Agriculture turns over to the food stamp program. Not anymore, if this filthy pig son of a bitch Trump has his way come April. People in many high cost of living areas and economically distressed communities won't be protected from this ruthless policy, even as the average cost of a meal in Manhattan approaches $6, nearly double the national average. Now, when she says the average cost of a meal, she's not talking about your upscale East Village or West Village restaurants. She's talking about the average cost of a meal in Manhattan, $6. The rest of the country, $3. While the rule will not affect SNAP recipients with little kids, those over age 50, pregnant women, or people with disabilities, they're going to be protected. Jesus will take care of them. It will affect many other vulnerable people like poor college students. What? College student? Fuck them, right? You look at that crowd, those crowds that cluster around Trump like flies around a shit pile, and see how many people, just look at their faces, and you can decide how many of those people do you think care about hungry college students? Really. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.